Well, thank you for joining us in the continuing Cafe Jesus Daily Word. We finished off Ezra yesterday, and today we're going to be beginning the book of Nehemiah. So, Bible Project's going to help us with that. If you remember at the end of Ezra, he prayed, and it was after the purging of getting rid of the intermarriage of Canaanite and pagan women, idolatrous women. And when they returned from captivity, that God dealt with them and their sin. And God was gracious. They were called out to be a holy people. And you remember Nehemiah, he's the guy who asked, as the cupbearer, to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. Well, without further ado, let's get to today's reading or look at Bible Project after we left off finishing Ezra, and getting into Nehemiah. So here we go.
And about Nehemiah. He's an Israelite official serving in the Persian government, and when he hears about the ruined state of Jerusalem's walls, he prays and then gets permission from the Persian king Artaxerxes to go and rebuild the walls. The king even gives him an armed escort and all these resources. So after arriving in Jerusalem, he begins the building project, and he too faces opposition from the people who had already been living around Jerusalem. Once again, we face a tension in the story. The contemporary prophet Zechariah said that the new Jerusalem of God's kingdom would be a city without walls, that God's presence would surround it, and people from all nations would come and join the covenant people. But Nehemiah seems to operate with the opposite vision. He informs the people surrounding Jerusalem that they have no part in Jerusalem. And this, of course, provokes them to hostility. And so while Nehemiah carries out his vision for the city with integrity and courage, they have to build the city with armed guards to protect them. We keep wondering, could this whole conflict have been handled differently? And this all leads to the conclusion of the book in two movements, first positive and then negative. Ezra and Nehemiah combine forces to bring about a spiritual renewal among the people. They gather all the exiles together for a festival. They read and teach the Torah to all the people for 7 days. And then they celebrate the ancient Feast of Tabernacles to remember God's faithfulness from the Exodus and the wilderness journeys. Then they offer a confession of their sins. They vow themselves to renew the covenant, follow all the commands of the Torah. And they finish with a great celebration over the temple, the walls of Jerusalem. And we're thinking this could be the turning point, but it's not. The book ends on a huge downer. Nehemiah tours around the city, and he finds that the people have not been fulfilling their covenant vows. So Zerubbabel's work is undone as he finds the temple being neglected and staffed by all these unqualified people. He then discovers that Ezra's work is being compromised. He finds everyone violating the Torah, people are working on the Sabbath, and even his own work on the walls is involved because people are setting up markets around the walls of Jerusalem and working on the Sabbath. So Nehemiah, he goes on a rampage. He's beating people up, he's pulling out their hair, and he's yelling, "Obey the commands of the Torah." And his final words are a prayer that God would remember him, that at least he tried, and the book ends. I mean, it's very strange, but we've been prepared for it, right? These anticlimactic moments have been woven into the book's design intentionally. And so it raises the question, what on earth does this book contribute to the storyline of the Bible? Well, remember, the book started by raising our hopes in the prophetic promises about the Messiah, the temple, the kingdom of God, and then none of it happens. So even though Israel is now back in the land, their spiritual state seems unchanged from before the exile. And while Ezra and Nehemiah, they do their best, but their political and social reforms among the people don't address the core issues of their heart. So what the book is pointing out is the same need highlighted by the prophets Jeremiah and Ezekiel. What God's people need is a holistic transformation of their hearts if they're ever going to love and obey their God. And so the book ends on a downer, yes, but it forces you to keep reading on into the wisdom and prophetic books to find out, what is God going to do to fulfill his great covenant promises? But for now, that's the book of Ezra and Nehemiah.
God was really patient, really patient over the years and centuries. And how we try to separate, we will never be able to really find or follow God in our flesh And many of us try. But until our spirit is renewed and we have new hearts that God puts in us, well, it won't be any different, will it? Well, may the Lord bless and keep you, and thank you for joining us today for the intro to Nehemiah. We'll be continuing later with the first chapter and other sundry things, should the Lord tarry, and I look forward to seeing you then. And if the Lord doesn't tarry, well, I'll be looking for you on the other side. May the Lord bless and keep you. Have a great day.